What if I told you that some of the greatest secrets of old Hollywood aren't buried in some dusty archive, but were bulldozed, sold off, or simply erased to make room for bland strip malls and billionaires' pools? Forget Tinseltown's shimmering present. Hollywood's true ghosts are the lost mansions that once defined an entire era of excess, scandal, and drama. But what really happened behind those gilded gates? And why did these palaces vanish? Ready to step inside? Careful, some doors can never be closed. Pfair. If one house ever deserved its own Hollywood Walk of Fame star, it was Pfair. Picture it. Beverly Hills, 1919. Silent screen goddess Mary Pickford and swashbuckling Douglas Fairbanks decide to drop a cool $35,000 on a sprawling estate, then turn it into the beating heart of Hollywood's new aristocracy. This wasn't just a mansion. This was the birthplace of the movie star as a concept. Pfair became such a legend. Its very name mashed up their surnames. A brand before branding was even a thing. From the outside, Pfair looked like an American Versailles. 25 rooms, rolling lawns, secret passageways, and a copper-roofed palace crafted by famed architect Wallace Neff. But it wasn't just about size. It was about spectacle. Think private Western saloon, the first in-ground pool in LA, and a living room stuffed with 18th century treasures, Asian artifacts, and enough imported silk to dress a dozen movie queens. But the real magic happened at the parties. This was where Chaplin and Einstein might rub elbows with FDR, where deals were inked on cocktail napkins, and where legends were made and sometimes destroyed before breakfast. But as with every Hollywood fairy tale, the credits rolled eventually. Pickford and Fairbanks's epic love story crashed into divorce. The guest list faded, and Pickford retreated behind closed doors with her new husband, Buddy Rogers. By the 1970s, the parties were just ghosts. When Lakers owner Jerry Buss bought Pfair in the 80s, he saw history. Others saw termites and tragedy. In 1990, the unthinkable happened. Most of Pfair was demolished by Pia Zadora and her husband, who claimed it was haunted. Fans called it sacrilege. Even today, the debate rages. Was it bad taste, bad luck, or just Hollywood eating its own? Pfair wasn't just a house. It was a mirror for Hollywood's wildest dreams and darkest endings. And when those bulldozers rolled in, it was more than wood and brick that disappeared. It was a chunk of old Hollywood's very soul. Marian Davies' beach house. Want to know what happens when Hollywood royalty mixes wild parties with old money scandal, then throws it all to the ocean? Step inside Marian Davies' beach house, a 100-room seaside palace built for the original It Girl, funded by her very married sugar daddy, William Randolph Hearst. You want drama? This place had more plot twists than Citizen Kane, which, by the way, was basically a love letter, and not a very flattering one, to this forbidden romance. Designed in the 1920s by the trailblazing Julia Morgan, the same architect behind Hearst Castle, the beach house wasn't just big, it was mind-blowing. Think marble pools, private ballrooms, Tiffany chandeliers, and room after room stuffed with treasures Hearst plundered from Europe. This was ground zero for roaring 20s excess. Chaplin, Garbo, Gable, Garson. They all sipped cocktails and danced on the patio as the Pacific surf rolled in. During the Depression, Davies even played fairy godmother, feeding out-of-work actors and quietly slipping cash or jewelry to friends who'd hit hard times. But in true Hollywood style, all that glitters really does turn to sand. World War II crashed the party. Hearst's empire started crumbling, and Marian, always the survivor, sold the house in 1945 to dodge tax fights and looming bills. The mansion's next life as a fancy hotel fizzled, and by 1956, the main house was demolished, replaced by, you guessed it, a parking lot. For decades, only the guest house and the pool survived, lonely relics of wilder times. But plot twist. In the 2000s, the Annenberg Foundation swooped in, pouring millions into what's now the Annenberg Community Beach House, a public oasis where everyone's welcome. The ghost of Davies parties still lingers, even if you're just chasing kids around the pool. If ever a mansion captured Hollywood's shape-shifting heart, it's this one. Epic, excessive, scandalous, gone. Yet somehow, still refusing to be forgotten. Falcon Lair. If Pfair was Hollywood's royal court, Falcon Lair was its most notorious forbidden castle. Picture the year, 1925. Rudolph Valentino, the Latin lover who made millions of fans swoon, snapped up 4 prime acres in Benedict Canyon. He names his sanctuary Falcon Lair, after a movie he never even finished. But that's Hollywood for you. More myth than reality, always. Valentino didn't just want a house. He wanted an escape from fame, a Mediterranean daydream with iron balconies, Moorish arches, Italian cypress trees, and the ultimate luxury, privacy. Valentino's style was pure high drama. Inside Falcon Lair, you'd find rooms dripping with Persian rugs, Renaissance art, and one-of-a-kind antiques he handpicked in Italy and Istanbul. There were stables for his beloved Arabian horses, and a mysterious basement crammed with electrical contraptions, all hand-selected by Rudy himself. Hollywood's most beautiful people partied here, but so did jazz musicians, playboys, and, if the rumors are true, Valentino's own private tarot reader. The parties were legendary, the gossip even more so. But just as Falcon Lair was hitting its stride, disaster struck. Valentino died suddenly, at just 31, leaving the estate, and Hollywood itself, shattered by grief. Fans by the thousands mourned at his funeral, and his mansion quickly became both a shrine and a curiosity. It passed through a who's who of eccentric millionaires, but no owner could quite recapture Valentino's magic. Doris Duke, the billionaire heiress, took over in the 1950s, adding a jazz lounge and peacock gardens, throwing wild soirees for the West Coast elite. Yet beneath the parties, Falcon Lair grew weirder, haunted by rumors of Valentino's ghost and the growing shadow of old Hollywood's decline. By the early 2000s, Falcon Lair was in ruins. Preservationists fought, the press howled, but money won out. In 2006, the main house came down, bulldozed into memory, like so many Hollywood dreams. Only a few outbuildings and the original gates survive, standing lonely and proud, relics of a more glamorous, stranger era. They say the ghost of Valentino still roams the hillside at night, waiting for one last curtain call. In a city built on make-believe, is it any wonder the best stories refuse to die? The Garden of Allah. Welcome to the Garden of Allah, where the champagne never stopped flowing and the secrets never stopped piling up. If you were a screenwriter in the 1930s Hollywood, you'd sell your typewriter for a weekend in one of its infamous Spanish villas. This place was part hotel, part hideaway, and part anything-goes party, a fever dream conjured by silent star Alla Nazimova, who transformed her estate into a den of sin and creativity right on Sunset Boulevard. Nazimova was Hollywood's original iconoclast, daring, brilliant, and always 2 scandals ahead of the gossip columns. She built the Garden of Allah as a personal retreat, complete with a Black Sea-shaped pool, exotic gardens, and a crowd of avant-garde artists, bohemians, and Hollywood misfits. When her career hit a rough patch, she flipped the estate into a hotel and unwittingly created the most legendary crash pad in Tinseltown history. Forget the Chateau Marmont. Fitzgerald, Dorothy Parker, Bogart, and Garbo all lived, loved, and nursed hangovers here. Errol Flynn started half his benders in the bar. Scott Fitzgerald tried to write himself back from oblivion, and literary types sparred with producers in the pool at dawn. Privacy was king. What happened at the Garden stayed at the Garden, until it landed in a script or a scandal sheet. But like all good Hollywood stories, the Garden's glory days were numbered. By the 50s, the villa walls were crumbling, and so were its guests. Too many cocktails, too many missed mortgage payments. The Red Scare sent a chill through the wild crowd, and the next generation of stars wanted Beverly Hills, not Sunset's faded glamour. The last owner tried to revive the magic, but the party was over. In 1959, the wrecking balls moved in. By the time the dust settled, the Garden of Allah was a strip mall and a bank, a tragicomic punchline to the wildest nights in Hollywood history. But if you listen closely when you drive by the empty lot today, you might still catch the echo of a jazz piano, a whispered secret, or the sound of glasses clinking at dawn. Some gardens grow back, but this one, it's a legend. The Ambassador Hotel. If the walls of the Ambassador Hotel could talk, they'd have enough material to make Netflix blush and MGM shudder. Opened in 1921, sprawled across 24 lush acres on Wilshire Boulevard, the Ambassador was Hollywood's playground, political nerve center, and crime scene all rolled into one. Its legendary Coconut Grove nightclub was where movie deals, presidential campaigns, and affairs the romantic kind and the criminal kind were sealed over martinis beneath a ceiling of paper palms and mechanical monkeys. Sinatra crooned here. Marilyn Monroe and Clark Gable made it their second home. The Academy Awards made their official debut here, and later, Bobby Kennedy's campaign met its tragic end in the hotel kitchen, an event that still chills Los Angeles history. The Ambassador wasn't just a hotel. It was where Hollywood and America mingled, danced, and sometimes crashed. Everyone who was anyone checked in, from presidents to gangsters to desperate starlets trying to get noticed between the champagne and the chandeliers. But Tinseltown doesn't do nostalgia, at least not when the money runs out. As the studio system died and the glitter faded, the Ambassador lost its luster. The 1970s saw the hotel drift into seediness, haunted by memories and squabbles over what to do with all that prime real estate. Preservationists waged a heroic battle, arguing the hotel was too iconic to destroy. But developers and school boards saw only dollar signs. In 2006, despite public outrage and a Hollywood-sized protest, the Ambassador was demolished, one last act of American reinvention. Today, a school campus sits where the red carpet once rolled. The ghosts of the Ambassador, triumph, tragedy, and everything in between, live on only in stories, old newsreels, and the legends whispered over drinks by those who remember a time when Hollywood's brightest lights danced until sunrise and believed the party would never end. Harold Lloyd's Green Acres. If there's one thing funnier than a Harold Lloyd pratfall, it's what happened to his legendary estate, Green Acres, a 15-acre Eden that started as a playground for one of Hollywood's greatest comedians and wound up as a living symbol of Tinseltown's shrinking dreams. Built in the late 1920s, Green Acres was designed to outshine everyone and everything. The house? 34 rooms, all overflowing with medieval tapestries, crystal, and enough period armor to withstand a siege. The grounds? Tennis courts, a 9-hole golf course, a working farm, a zoo, and gardens that looked like something out of Versailles on steroids. Lloyd's parties were the stuff of legend. Hollywood's A-list cavorted through mazes, fountains, and a 900-foot man-made canoe stream. Imagine Greta Garbo rowing past a flock of flamingos, or a studio boss losing his trousers in the pool. For a while, Lloyd was the king of comedy and the king of Beverly Hills, all at once. But even for a silent clown with a genius for timing, the punchline comes eventually. As the Depression hit and the Golden Age dimmed, Lloyd's film career slowed, but his lifestyle never did. Taxes, lawsuits, and the staggering cost of maintaining paradise started chipping away at Green Acres' borders. The Lloyd family sold off parcels of land to keep the main house afloat, shrinking the estate like a pair of pants in a hot wash. By the 1970s, what was once a 15-acre wonderland had shriveled to just a few manicured acres. The tennis courts, golf course, and zoo all sacrificed to the god of real estate. Green Acres survived, but as a smaller, quieter version of its riotous self. In the 80s, even the mansion itself was nearly demolished, saved only by its status as a local landmark and the nostalgia of old movie buffs. Today, Green Acres stands as a weirdly perfect monument to Hollywood's old ambitions and new realities. Grand, yes, but hemmed in by the city, it helped to make famous. A silent punchline to the joke that no dream in LA ever stays as big as it starts. Colleen Moore's Dollhouse Mansion. Not every lost mansion of Hollywood was about power or scandal. Some, like Colleen Moore's Dollhouse Mansion, were pure, shimmering fantasy. Colleen Moore was the queen of 1920s flapper flicks, a star with a child's imagination and an adult's bankroll. In the hills of Bel Air, she built her own private fairy tale, a sprawling mansion designed around a miniature palace, complete with towers, secret rooms, and a collection of tiny treasures that could make even Walt Disney jealous. Moore's Dollhouse was more than just a plaything. It was an art project, a social curiosity, and a symbol of Hollywood's most creative excess. The parties here were whimsical, bordering on surreal. Guests marveled at the elaborate dollhouse centerpiece, a castle stuffed with real gold chandeliers, miniature Persian rugs, and Lilliputian books signed by celebrities. Moore played host like a magician, charming directors, actors, and even visiting royalty, who all wanted a glimpse inside her dream world. But fairy tales fade, and so did Moore's Hollywood fortune. After a rocky divorce and the arrival of the Depression, her Bel Air castle became an expensive weight. Moore, ever the survivor, packed up her dollhouse and shipped it to Chicago's Museum of Science and Industry, where it still dazzles kids and collectors to this day. The mansion itself didn't get so lucky. Sold and bulldozed, its footprint erased by new construction. Not a single tower remains, just a faded memory and a museum display case that hints at the magic once alive on those California hills. If Moore's story proves anything, it's that in Hollywood, the biggest dreams don't always get a Hollywood ending. But sometimes, a little piece of magic can outlast the mansion it called home. The Doheny Circle Mansions. If there was ever a family whose real estate mirrored the rise and fall of Hollywood dreams, it was the Dohenys. The Greystone Mansion in Beverly Hills, built by oil baron Edward Doheny for his son Ned, was just the centerpiece of a sprawling empire of estates that defined early LA luxury. With its Gothic arches, stone-carved gargoyles, and labyrinthine halls, Greystone was as much fortress as a family home, filled with oil money, political ambition, and enough scandal to fuel a miniseries. The parties here were legendary. Senators, moguls, and movie stars wandering the grand staircases, whispering secrets while sipping from gold-rimmed glasses. But tragedy shadowed the house. In 1929, Ned Doheny was found dead inside, a victim of either murder or suicide. No one could ever agree. The scandal shook the city and cast a long, noirish shadow over the mansion and the family that built it. As Beverly Hills exploded in value, the Dohenys' fortunes splintered. Greystone itself survived, barely, thanks to its size and eventual conversion into a park. But the smaller homes of the Doheny Circle were picked off by developers, demolished, subdivided, or simply remodeled into oblivion. The dynasty's empire crumbled, lost to taxes, bad luck, and the relentless march of Los Angeles real estate. Today, Greystone is open to the public, a rare survivor. But the lost mansions of the Doheny set tell the real story. A city where fortunes can vanish as quickly as they're made, and even the most imposing palaces can be erased, stone by stone, until only the legend remains. So, next time you drive through Beverly Hills or glance at another glassy McMansion, remember, you're rolling over the bones of lost Hollywood. These weren't just houses. They were the battlegrounds of dreams, egos, and disasters, built and destroyed in the name of reinvention. Which mansion story blew your mind? Drop a comment, Subscribe for more untold Hollywood secrets, and share this video with someone who loves a little scandal with their history. Which legend will rise or vanish next?